I, I worked on it with Rosalind, Vicky, and Fatima. Why isn't this working? Okay. So to do a little introduction, like I said, my name is Eden. My pronouns are she, her. One good thing that happened to me today is the day went by pretty fast, and the week is almost over too. So I'm looking forward to the weekend. Um, if anyone else would like to share, do a little introduction, you can do it in the chat or you can go off of mute, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Hi, I'm Chelsea. My pronouns are she, her. And one good thing was that today was really warm, so it was really nice just walking home and taking my time.
Yes, the weather has been really nice.
Salutations. My name is Ticey and I go by she, her. And today, the best thing that happened to me was waking up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Siobhan. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And one good thing about my day, I was able to finally eat my leftovers, guys. I know that's silly, but I made it through.
That's great. Okay, so hi. Oh no. Okay, so hi guys. My name is Nana Boy. My pronouns is she, her, and hers. And one good thing that happened today was I woke up early, I woke up 5, which I haven't done in a while. So that was a good thing.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosalind and my pronouns are she, her. And one good thing about my day, I agree with Chelsea, the weather was very nice today. I wasn't too hot or it wasn't cold, obviously. Does anyone want to share before the next slide?
Okay, cool. We'll move on then. Okay. So, okay. Let's talk a little bit about what a bystander is. A bystander is someone who is present at an event but doesn't partake in it or intervenes at all. Um, they usually are just an observer and just watch the event occur. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, a bystander is present at 70% of assaults. So that is a very large percentage. So we're gonna move on. Just a little quote. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them and do nothing. This is just a little quote about bystanders. We're gonna get more into detail in a second. Okay, so has anyone ever been a bystander? If you feel comfortable, you can share your experience, what you feel like you could have done differently, what the event was. If you feel comfortable, you could say in the chat or go off of mute.
Was gonna say when I was in the fifth grade, yeah, it was the fifth grade. I had to go to this school event, and we were all waiting on this line, and I went up to the front of the line to ask, like, I don't know, I just went up to the front of the line to ask, like, the person who was controlling the line I don't know what the question was, but I asked them, and there's this couple in the front, this Bengali couple. They looked to be like about my grandfather's grandmother's age. They were really old, and the Spanish man that was behind them kept yelling at them because apparently they were in the way, even though they were literally waiting on the line in front of him. And then he called them terrorists, and he said for them to go back to their country. And like, even though I was a fifth grader, I've seen things like that before because of 9/11, and I really wanted to say something, but I was just scared. So
Yeah, I feel like that's a really common thing, like within like just witnessing events happen like that. Like you don't know whether or not you should say something, and you're usually scared to say something, or it's kind of in the moment thing. You don't know whether to say something or not. Also, if anyone would like to share their own like definition of what a bystander is, you could do that as well.
I'll go. I've definitely been a bystander um, slash upstander before at different times, right? I think when things have felt like I wasn't safe, then I was a bystander. I didn't feel like I had a safe option to participate in like in helping in a circumstance, maybe because I was alone and there weren't too many other people available to lend support, or I thought that maybe there weren't people that would have supported in those instances. And I've definitely been an upstander. I've seen people like expose themselves on the train and gone to women and asked, you know, for them to come off of the train with me to make sure that they were safe, and not, you know, in any harm. So that was helpful. But I always think that there's more that can be done.
Yeah, so I like been relating to the train. I take the subway to school a lot, so I see a lot of things that happen. People get into fights, people yell derogatory things at others, and because I'm afraid to get involved because I don't know what that would result in, I choose to stay quiet because I don't want to make the situation worse.
I think I've been a bystander, but especially in class now that I'm in college, because sometimes some professors say things that I think they don't mean to be like offensive, but it turns out to be offensive. So afterwards, I go up to them, even though it didn't offend me, but there are other people in the classes that felt offended, but they weren't able to speak up. So after the class, I go to a professor and I speak to him about how his words were offensive and how um, his actions were offensive, and tell him not to do that again. So I think that's how I've been a bystander to certain.
Would anyone else like to share? Okay. Thank you to everyone who shared. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next slide. So okay. So here's a few things on what you could or could not do if you're ever a bystander in some sort of situation of assault or anything like that. So what you could do is, when it is safe, intervene and provide your input. Sometimes providing your input can mean differently to someone that is experiencing negativity. Like it could either benefit or not benefit them, but you use your best judgment on whether or not you can intervene. And what not to do is to intervene when it's becoming physically violent, or to jump in without thinking. And if you need to contact the proper authorities, that should be done when needed, definitely. So I'm gonna move on.
So here's how to avoid being a bystander with the 5 Ds. Number 1 is distract. If there's any potential harm, distract them. Number 2, direct. Directly intervene the situation. Number 3, delay. After the situation has occurred, check in with whoever was being harmed. Let them know they are seen and make sure they get the help they need, as long as they're comfortable with you helping them. Number 4, delegate. Delay the situation if there's a possibility of which the proper authorities will take time to come. And number 5, document. Record, photograph the situation or the individual doing the harm. And if you do decide to record, if the person that was assaulted or is being harmed doesn't want you to have the video, make sure you delete it or send it to them if they'd like. So now let's practice. Which one of the 5 Ds do you think fits in this situation? I'm going to read out a situation. A man starts yelling at a woman on the train who denied him and begins to invade her personal space. You observe that no one is helping her. What would you do and why? And the 5 Ds, to remind you, are distract, direct, delay, delegate, and document.
I think the first thing I will start doing is to, my name is Nana Boy. I think the first thing I'll start to do is to document it. If a man is yelling at a woman, the first thing I would do is to document it. And I think I wouldn't feel safe in that situation to get involved because I don't know what could happen. Maybe I could get physically hurt, and then I would delegate. I'll go to the woman afterward, then ask her how she was doing and how and check in with her. But I think recording would be essential just in case she wants to press charges or she wants to take legal actions against him. So I think that's what I would do. What do you guys think?
Yes, I agree. I would also direct and delegate. I think that's the perfect 5 Ds to use in that situation. Correct me if I'm saying your name wrong, but Ticey said document sometimes helps delay or distract, which is true, yes.
And yes, you said my name correct. I can elaborate on that a little bit more though. To document, sometimes people don't, they fear being on camera or fear that everything's being documented and that it can be proven later. And sometimes this can make a person angry. However, it can prevent a situation because people, because it's evidence that something is happening.
Would anyone like to decide which 5Ds fit into this situation, or can we move on? Oh, wait, hold on. Alexis says, this scenario happened to me actually on the subway. I told him I just came home from viewing a family member at the morgue and in no mood to socialize. I got up and moved to another cart, even though there were other men in the train car, and they did nothing. I'm sorry that happened. Thank you everyone for sharing. Now we're going to move on. What are some reasons someone will not intervene in a situation? Think about an individual's identity regarding gender and race, and how has this affected you or the people you know?
Okay, so it hasn't affected me personally, but I think it had. Well, I think people around me. I think that's because they're not documented citizens. They don't have the citizenship. So if they were to intervene and someone were to report it, which is very frequent now, they might probably be sent back. They might probably be deported. So I think that's one of the reasons why some people prefer not to. People that I know prefer not to intervene.
I've also witnessed not intervening because once someone has intervened, then both parties who were in a situation um, are angry at the person who intervened, and that person becomes the victim instead.
Yes, I completely agree with you guys. And especially in some situations when you are a person of color, like you might not feel comfortable with proper authorities like police being called because of police violence and brutality. Would anyone else like to share? Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Um, so if you aren't able to directly help someone in a situation, how would you be able to indirectly help or, just help the situation in general?
Um, you would probably call the authorities with anything. Just use your best judgment, and that's probably the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Also, like documenting the situation, or calling proper authorities if you think that is okay in that situation. Two more minutes for questions. Princess asked, do most people remain as bystanders because they are afraid? That is one thing, but I feel like most people are bystanders because they think someone else will do something. So like on the train, if you see like someone fighting or arguing, no one's gonna, they're gonna think like, oh, someone else will help them, especially if it's crowded.
Yeah, that's usually the case. That's why people don't end up doing anything. But they just assume that other people are going to do it, or they might be afraid. Kaisi, I think is how you pronounce your name, said, what happens if it's the police who are the assailant? Sorry. Um, that's a little bit more of a challenging question because those are the people that are supposed to be helping the violence that has been occurred, but you could go to other police or maybe like a higher power like the court or something like that, or you could use whatever evidence you have and share it online, maybe get some sort of awareness towards what had occurred. um yeah, if you can document if you have any evidence, use it.
Thank you. I just thought about that, asking if police were the assailants, because it reminds me of how everybody was documenting and screaming at police officers in that George Floyd case. I mean, documenting wasn't enough to save his life. So how, yes, documenting definitely um, aided in the awareness of situations like that. But even documenting puts you at a pace where you're still a bystander if that person is harmed or killed. So being while it was being documented, or just it's I know it's a sensitive topic. However, when we think of being a bystander and being able to document, it doesn't seem like it's enough when there's a life-threatening situation.
Well, definitely if it's a life-threatening situation, intervene physically if that's like however you feel is best. But it is a hard decision when it's in the moment, I would say. But yeah, I yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I'd like to add that to your question that you just asked, Pricey, that I think in a sense, I think recorded in that moment, I think it was a form of upstanding because that was all they could do in that moment because the police had much higher power than they did. They had guns, they had weapons that they could use upon them. So I think recording was a sense of agency. I think that is a form of upstanding, and their recording was part of the evidence used that convicted the police officers. I think that is if I think your safety also matters. So you need to assess the situation before you intervene. But if you can intervene physically.
Thank you so much for that. It's just, being a bystander is because when you can intervene, you can save somebody's life. And yes, documenting helps, and there are so many times where people have intervened and lost their life. So at the end of the day, yes, documenting is great to be able to convict someone you know, if it goes that way. But being able to intervene and help someone before they lose their life is what I want to know. Is, how can we get to that point outside of documenting? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It is a tough choice, but to save lives. So intervening, we want to save somebody's life.
I see. I think that's a great question. And I think that's a question like all of us, I think for more than, I think 2 years for the general public, but for people of color, specifically Black people and Latinx folks who have been targeted over the last 40 years, I think that question has been, an ongoing question. And I think it really depends on who else is there and willing to, make the sacrifice of putting themselves, out there in that way. And I don't think we've seen that besides the documentation over the last few years. But it is a great question. It is something, to consider and to think about.
Thank you for that feedback.
Any more questions? If not, thank you everyone for coming and just being here today. I hope everyone has had a nice day.
Yes, thank you for being here and listening.